You were taught the wrong fear. You were taught to fear rejection, to fear losing her, to fear not being enough. But that's not the fear that destroys you. The real fear, the one that silently dismantles your power, is the fear of standing still in your own center while someone else tries to move you. Most men believe attraction is something they do, something they say correctly, something they perform with precision. They think if they choose the right words, soften the tone, explain their intentions clearly enough, prove they're good, honest, committed, emotionally available, respect will follow. It doesn't. Because respect is not granted to effort. It's granted to weight. And weight is never in what you say. It's in how your body carries silence. Here's the uncomfortable truth most men never notice. She senses your power long before she hears your logic. Your posture reveals it. Your breathing gives it away. Your eyes confess before your mouth speaks. And when your body leans forward, seeking approval, when your voice accelerates, seeking permission, when your words stack explanations, seeking validation, something inside her closes, not consciously, not maliciously, automatically. Because attraction doesn't respond to effort. It responds to internal authority. And authority is invisible to men who are still negotiating their own worth. Most men don't lose power because women take it. They lose it because they offer it prematurely. They hand over emotional leadership before anyone asked for it. They justify before they're questioned. They explain before silence demanded it. They apologize before any accusation existed. And the moment that happens, the dynamic shifts. Not dramatically, not loudly, but subtly, irreversibly. Here's what no one tells you. The woman doesn't need to dominate you. She only needs to stop feeling led. And the moment she stops feeling led, she starts testing. Not to hurt you, not to manipulate you, but to locate where your center actually is. And most men fail that test without ever knowing it happened, because the test isn't verbal. It's energetic. It's in how you hold space when tension enters the room. It's in whether your nervous system collapses under uncertainty. It's in whether your presence tightens or stabilizes. And when it doesn't stabilize, something ancient inside her registers danger. Not physical danger, existential danger, because a man who cannot regulate himself cannot anchor anyone else. That's the real reason this conversation is uncomfortable. Because it forces you to confront the possibility that attraction has nothing to do with convincing and everything to do with containment. Let me ask you something, and answer it honestly, not performatively. When was the last time a woman pulled away emotionally, and instead of staying grounded, you tried to fix it with words, explanations, or reassurance? Think about that moment. Not the story, your body, your chest, your breath, your posture. Did you expand, court, or contract? Because that contraction is the invisible error, and it's the one women don't want you to identify. Here's why. The moment you realize that attraction dissolves when your center dissolves, you stop chasing reactions. You stop negotiating feelings. You stop asking for clarity that only self-trust can provide. And when that happens, a woman can no longer control the dynamic with distance, ambiguity, or emotional withdrawal. Because you're no longer reacting to the weather. You are the climate. Most men live externally. Their emotional state depends on her tone, her texts, her mood, her attention. When she's warm, they're confident. When she's distant, they're anxious. That is not attraction, that is dependency disguised as connection. And women feel it immediately, even if they can't articulate it. What they feel is this: if I step back, he collapses. And no woman respects what collapses under pressure. That doesn't mean she becomes cruel. It means she becomes cautious, and caution kills desire. Here's the brutal paradox. The more you try to reassure her of your value, the more you demonstrate that you don't fully believe in it yourself. Power is never asserted. It's assumed. The Stoics understood this long before dating psychology ever existed. They didn't speak about attraction. They spoke about self-governance. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man who is disturbed by external things is disturbed not by events, but by his judgment of them. Most men are disturbed by women not because women are unpredictable, but because men outsource their emotional equilibrium. They wait for her signals to decide how to feel about themselves. And that is the axis of weakness. Here's the pattern you've probably lived more than once. You meet her. There's chemistry, there's tension, there's possibility. You're calm at first, centered, present. She feels it. Then investment begins. You start caring more, thinking more, projecting forward, and slowly, almost invisibly, you begin leaning into the interaction. You seek confirmation, you seek definition, you seek reassurance. Your energy shifts from grounded to seeking, and she feels that shift before you do. Her response is slow, her enthusiasm fluctuates, her certainty dissolves, and you panic, not outwardly, but internally. You start adjusting, adapting, performing. That's the moment power leaves your body, because power is incompatible with need. Not emotional need in general, but the need for external regulation. A man who cannot sit inside uncertainty without trying to resolve it communicates one thing: I am not safe in myself. And if you are not safe in yourself, you cannot be a place of safety for anyone else. That's why women don't want men to understand this, because the moment you stop chasing emotional certainty from her, her leverage disappears. Distance stops working, ambiguity stops working, withholding stops working. Because you are no longer orienting yourself around her reactions, you're anchored, and anchoring changes everything. The man who is anchored doesn't rush to speak. He doesn't fill silence. He doesn't explain his intentions. He allows space, and space is where attraction breathes. Here's what most men misunderstand about Stoicism. They think it means emotional coldness, detachment, indifference. It doesn't. It means emotional sovereignty. It means you experience emotion fully, but you don't outsource your direction to it. You feel desire without desperation, interest without attachment, connection without collapse. That's why Stoic men feel dangerous in the best way. Not aggressive, not domineering, unshakable. And an unshakable man destabilizes every control mechanism that relies on reaction, because control only works on what moves when pushed. Let's go deeper. Your body is the first thing she reads, before your words, before your logic, before your story. If your breathing becomes shallow when she pulls away, if your shoulders tighten when she questions you, if your eyes seek reassurance when tension appears, she knows, not consciously, somatically. And once that signal is sent, no amount of confident language can erase it. This is why men who say the right things still lose attraction, because the body never lies. You can rehearse lines, you can study psychology, you can memorize frameworks. But if your nervous system is reactive, your presence will always betray you. That's the invisible mechanism, and it's the one this entire dynamic depends on you not mastering. Because the moment you regulate yourself, you stop being predictable. And unpredictability, when grounded, is magnetic. Here's the shift that changes everything. You stop asking, how do I make her feel? And you start asking, am I stable in myself right now? If the answer is no, you don't speak, you breathe. You slow down, you settle, you reclaim your body before you engage the moment. That alone dissolves most power struggles, because when you stop reacting, she has nothing to push against, and tension without resistance turns into curiosity. Curiosity turns into attention. Attention turns into desire, not because you chased it, but because you allowed it. This is where most men get uncomfortable, because this requires you to let go of control. Not control over her, control over outcomes. You stop trying to secure attraction, you let attraction reveal itself, and if it doesn't, you don't collapse, you don't bargain, you remain. That's presence, and presence is the rarest currency there is. Most men abandon themselves at the first sign of emotional risk. They negotiate their boundaries, they soften their standards, they trade authenticity for acceptance, and in doing so, they become safe, but not respected. Women don't want safe men. They want contained men. Men who can hold intensity without leaking. Men who don't need emotional guarantees to remain grounded. Men who don't flinch when uncertainty enters the room. That's power, not dominance, not manipulation, internal gravity. And gravity doesn't announce itself, it pulls. This is why the men who stop trying to impress are the ones who leave the deepest imprint. They don't escalate, they don't chase, they allow. And allowance is not passive, it's confident restraint. Now here's the part most men resist. You cannot fake this. You either have a center or you don't. And building that center is not about tactics. It's about identity. It's about deciding, once and for all, that your emotional state is your responsibility. Not hers, not the dynamic, not the outcome. When you internalize that, everything changes. Your voice slows, your movements soften, your eye contact deepens. Not because you're trying, but because you're no longer performing. And when you stop performing, she finally gets to respond to something real. That's when attraction either stabilizes or reveals it was never there. Both outcomes are power, because clarity is power, and the man who can sit in clarity without needing to manipulate it is the man who leads without trying. This is the truth behind the title. Not that women are hiding something malicious, but that the entire dynamic collapses the moment a man becomes internally sovereign. Because sovereignty can't be managed, it can only be chosen or walked away from, and either way you remain intact. There's a moment most men remember with discomfort, even if they never named it. A moment when she looked at them differently. Not angry, not cold, just distant, as if something quietly recalibrated inside her. Most men think that moment happened because they said the wrong thing. It didn't. It happened because, in that moment, you abandoned your center. And once a man abandons his center, the relationship stops being about connection and starts being about regulation. She regulates. You react. That's the axis where power leaks. Let's make this explicit now, because this is the core mechanism behind everything. Women don't lose attraction to men who are imperfect. They lose attraction to men who become emotionally movable. Movable by tone, movable by mood, movable by uncertainty. A man who can be repositioned emotionally cannot lead psychologically. And leadership, quiet, embodied leadership, is what desire orients around. This is why so many men feel confused. They improve themselves, they read, they work harder, they become more attentive, more open, more emotionally expressive. And yet, attraction fades, not because growth repels women, but because the orientation of that growth is wrong. When your growth is directed outward, toward approval, validation, reassurance, it weakens you, because it signals that your axis is external, and anything external can be taken away. Here's the truth most men never hear. The woman doesn't feel safe with your emotions. She feels safe with your containment of them. Big difference. Emotional availability without containment feels like volatility. Intensity without grounding feels like instability. That's why emotional expression without internal structure often backfires. You think you're connecting. She feels she's holding. And no woman wants to carry a man's emotional balance. That's not partnership. That's parenting. Now here's where Stoicism enters, not as philosophy but as biology-aware psychology. Stoicism isn't suppression, it's governance. It's the discipline of not letting external stimuli hijack your internal state. Epictetus didn't say, "Don't feel." He said, "Don't confuse what happens with what controls you." Most men confuse attraction with approval. They believe if she's uncertain, they should fix it. If she's distant, they should close the gap. If she's ambiguous, they should clarify. But ambiguity is not a problem to solve, it's a space to hold. And the man who can hold space without collapsing into explanation becomes the reference point. This is where the dynamic flips. When you stop reacting, she starts orienting. When you stop chasing certainty, she starts revealing intent. When you stop asking where you stand, she starts positioning herself. Because the one who needs clarity least controls the frame. This isn't manipulation. This is energetic economics. Attention flows toward stability. Desire flows toward direction. And direction comes from men who know where they stand, even in silence. Let's talk about the real reason this destroys her power. Not because women are scheming. Not because they're manipulative villains, but because many female influence strategies rely on emotional responsiveness. Distance to provoke pursuit, ambiguity to test investment, silence to trigger explanation. These aren't evil tactics, they're adaptive behaviors, but they only work on men who abandon themselves when tension appears. The moment you don't chase the distance, the moment you don't fill the silence, the moment you don't explain the ambiguity, the mechanism stops functioning. And when a mechanism stops functioning, the only thing left is truth. Either attraction exists or it doesn't. And the Stoic man is fine with either outcome. That's the part that feels threatening, because indifference to outcome is not weakness, it's autonomy. Now let's expose the deepest layer. The real secret behind male power is not dominance, it's non-need, not emotional numbness, not cold detachment, but freedom from needing another person to regulate your identity. When you no longer need her response to validate your position, you become unshakable. Your body relaxes, your voice grounds, your presence deepens, and she feels it instantly. Not as comfort, but as gravity. This is why women often say, "I don't know what it is about him." They feel the absence of need, and the absence of need creates space. Space creates tension. Tension creates desire. Now let's deliver the payoff cleanly, without mysticism, without exaggeration. The true secret behind this entire dynamic is not manipulation. It's emotional self-mastery, control of breath under pressure, control of posture under uncertainty, control of pace when tension rises. That's it. The man who controls his internal rhythm controls the interaction, without trying. He doesn't rush to respond. He doesn't rush to define. He doesn't rush to repair. He allows moments to exist. And moments are where truth emerges. This is why Stoicism works so powerfully in attraction. Because it removes the reactive loop. You stop oscillating emotionally based on her signals. You become consistent. Consistency is safety. Safety enables polarity, and polarity sustains attraction. Let's make the transformation explicit now. You move from the man who scans her mood to the man who sets the emotional tone. From the man who explains himself to the man whose presence explains everything. From the man who asks for reassurance to the man who doesn't require it. From the man who reacts to the man who conducts. This is not arrogance, it's internal leadership. And leadership always attracts, whether in relationships, business, or life. Here's the identity shift that locks it in. You stop asking, "Does she like me?" And you start living from, "Am I aligned with myself?" When alignment replaces approval seeking, everything recalibrates. You speak slower. You choose words more deliberately. You tolerate silence. And silence becomes your ally. Because silence reveals who's grounded and who's not. Now understand this clearly. This path will cost you some women, the ones who relied on your reactivity, the ones who felt powerful through your uncertainty, the ones who needed you emotionally movable. They will feel the shift, and some will resist it, not consciously, instinctively, because you're no longer predictable, and predictability is the currency of control. But here's what you gain: respect that doesn't fluctuate, attraction that stabilizes, relationships that feel calm, not chaotic, and most importantly, self-respect that doesn't depend on external validation. This is why Stoicism isn't about women at all. It's about becoming ungovernable internally. When no one can hijack your emotional state, no one can leverage you psychologically. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to manipulate. You simply are. And those who can meet you there, stay. Those who can't fall away, that's not loss. That's filtration. Now the final truth, the one that closes the loop. Women don't fear men who understand psychology. They fear men who understand themselves, because a man who understands himself cannot be moved with confusion, guilt, or emotional pressure. He can only be chosen or rejected, and he's at peace with both. That is the end of negotiation. That is freedom. That is Stoic power. If this resonated, if you felt it not in your head, but in your body, this isn't information. It's a reprogramming, a shift in center, and this is only the beginning. There is a method behind this, a system, a code, not to manipulate women, but to master yourself. And mastery changes everything downstream. If you're ready to continue this path, to refine presence, internal authority, and emotional dominance without force, stay close. This isn't content, it's conditioning. And once you feel it, you can't unsee it. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't explain, you stand. And the world responds. That's Stoicism, that's power, and now you have it.